Welcome. I talk with Thoth every day. About 20 years ago, I wondered whether I was doing some kind of geometric trick, bouncing thoughts off of sort of ephemeral consciousness, projecting my own presence. I've been through about as many different explanations as there can be, and the only one that works is that I'm talking with Thoth. I fully comprehend you being skeptical about this. I get it. I encourage you to doubt. Do me a favor, be respectful. That's it. And what respect means is look twice. Of course you have doubts. I have had doubts for years. And to be present with the fact that this dude with, whatever I give you, my presence on YouTube, the impact I've had in this lifetime, why is it that I am somehow able to share with you direct thoughts from Thoth while we've got all these other folks analyzing the ancient remnants of different archaeological sites and analyzing the texts and diving into the emerald tablets and the Kabbalion? How could I have anything to offer to this conversation that's really direct? Now, plenty of you just believe it. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're creating something together that's really amazing. And within the inner circle of us who have been building, something incredible is coming to life. The secret truth to this is as long as you maintain your faith, it works. When you doubt, it stops working. So I went through years of going back and forth. Like I would believe it for a phase. I would learn something. I would write it or record it. And then I would doubt it. And I'd be like, I'm crazy. I'm talking to, oh man, I thought of everything. I'm talking to my dead grandparents. I'm talking to, the ephemeral Holy Spirit. I'm talking to a demon. I'm talking to blah, 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 blah. And when I returned to faith, it would work again. So the flow gives the truth. And the simplest explanation that really, really works is fun and funny. We've used this before. I invite those of you who know it to re-embrace it. Imagine you're a little kid. You cover your eyes. You can't see me. You can't see me. This is what we've done. There are many beings, guides of the earth, sacred, divine angels. And they're here. They're more here than we are on earth. Their consciousness is more present, more committed, more awake than we are on earth. And when they witness you, they care. And they're making very pragmatic investments in who you are. They invest, they care, they infuse, they inspire, they guide those who listen and follow their guidance. And that's all of us. Whenever I've gone through a phase of retreating, being in doubt, it's like, okay, cool. Thoth would leave me with a lesson and he'd be like, have you focused on that yet? Have you integrated that yet? And I'd go back, I'd like break out of my doubt and be like, go into a space where I'd talk to him and I'm like, I do believe. And he'd be like, okay, have you done that yet? And I'm like, no. And he's like, well, why haven't you done that? And I'm like, I doubted you. And he's like, well, okay, do that. Simple. Now, in my case, we're going to take this another step because I have an interesting and an extreme job. It's my job to help people through this time. It's always been the deal. I was born in this lifetime with a contract with Thoth to do this work. I had to be. I worked in my previous lifetimes to get to this point. I haven't been somebody who you need to know about. Like, I'm not going to suddenly spring on you that I'm this or that person. I worked really hard in Rosicrucian Eleusinian mystery schools in different lifetimes. And I was there in Egypt well before that. Of course I doubt it. Of course it sounds silly. I'm not just asking you to dive in and reinforce this for me without questioning. Please question. Some people have a calling to be deeply open and faithful. And you could hear me say this and you'd hold it and believe it and talk to me this way. And I'm so grateful for you. And others of you are more rooted in a pragmatic, even a scientific reality. And I honor you as well. And I respect your right to go, what's he talking about? Please do. Right now, we're going through one of the most dramatic changes in world history. We know a lot about what's going on here in this community. We know a lot about what's happening, why it's happening, and what to do about it. In order to communicate that to you in a way that you can trust, it's necessary to work a little bit with the foundations. I have been on Earth for a long time. 967 lifetimes in human form. That's all the way back to the Atlantean transition. And because I've been here so long, I understand a lot about the foundations. And I agreed to do this, which is bonkers. It's so difficult. It's so crazy. It's so cool. It's so worth it. It's absolutely what I most want to do. And I agreed to wear baseball hats and watch sports and love Madonna and We Are the World and like to invest in the culture as it is as I was growing up. It's part of it. The divine presence on earth wrote these stories, seeded our songs, guided our entertainments. There's purpose to everything in every generation. Much of the joy of doing a cycle on earth, and make no mistake, this is one cycle. Much of the joy of participating in a cycle on earth is to discover what the songs will be, to uncover what the stories will be. There's an incredible, intricate beauty to what is possible to create within this world. And it's gorgeous. When you erase the presence of songs on a certain range of vibrations, and then they are recreated. Songs are created on those vibrations using the patterns of simple math, the basic foundations of chord progressions that we love. And when songs are written and they become popular, they resonate in the collective space. And after a while, you can't really fiddle around with the chords in many more ways because you're just bumping into the way other chords worked in other songs. So the songs that become loved and cherished, this is a sacred mystery. People want to discover this. People watch Earth. People watch Earth without incarnating just to discover these things. To be invited, and I'm inviting you, to be invited into the perspective that is necessary to appreciate what's going on right now is to make a radical transition in how your mind works. And you have to let go of the past. Now, we're just repeating the same themes over and over again, but if you put this together enough, if you work with these themes enough, there will be a certain level of click where it's like, oh, I get it. Experiencing life historically, meaning in sequence, looking back, is a particular perspective. Right there, boom, you've invested. Now you're in a perspective that can't really grasp the truth already. It's already over. If you try to perceive everything through this lens, you are addicted to a certain objectivity or seeming objectivity of things that we can prove with materialistic facts. And you're not really going to be able to reach into the perspective that's necessary to get the full true story. The true story comes from a different start. The start is you chose to participate. Now look at this. You can contemplate the world over 26,000 years. Just try. You can contemplate the world over 26,000 years. There's going to be a wobble, precession of the equinoxes. It's going to go through this cycle. It's a little less than that long. And you can write a story. I want you to get this. You can write a story. You can plan it out. You could say at this time we're going to do this, and at this time we're going to have this change, and at this time we're going to have this change. And it could be different. One set of beings could write it one way, and another set could write it another way. So to get the full story, you have to start from this perspective, the perspective in which the story was begun, was written. And from this place, there's a simple arc of change. When the cycle completes, you can see when the Earth is tilting, when the precession of the equinoxes tilts towards the center of the galaxy, it's like a grand cosmic summer in a certain respect. So there's a degree of harmony with the rest of the galaxy. We're just talking about our Milky Way. There's a degree of harmony with the Milky Way that creates an optimal time for wakefulness, for connection, coherence, divine presence, integrating the best of what's possible on Earth with the rest of this galaxy. When it starts to go away, it's like going into the fall towards a winter. And there's a harmony of currents that makes this a less optimal time to engage with the world. Now, use this analogy because when you don't have electricity, so you don't have the possibility of controlling the mechanics of, the day-to-day light and warmth upon your body in the same capacity we've got now, winter becomes a time to tell stories, to hibernate, to think, to plan, to imagine, to generate, to create. And in many ways, that's what this grand winter has been. All of this his story has been just half of the cycle. In fact, even less than half the cycle. We'll address this to an extent. But just imagine history is only existing during the fall and the winter. It's a story time. It's a brutal, awful story time. But from the perspective of a firm, complete awareness that bodies are reborn, that spirits eventually return to soul, and you are eternal, this is a very different kind of time. Now, there's a viciousness to it on a certain respect, because to surrender into being present in a body and then to lose love, to lose friendship, to be betrayed, to murder, to die, to experience pain, these are terrifying experiences that on a certain level, it seems completely like, why would any being do these? And when all of that exists within essentially story time, you could consider that from the perspective of many beings, this is sort of like a video game getting more and more and more and more realistic. So you add each level and it starts to affect you more deeply. You're more intimately invested. I just saw a video, some guys spent 400 hours played some game. Now, I don't do this anymore. I did this when I was a kid. I don't do this anymore. I won't judge it. I will say, the more you invest in a world, the more it becomes real, the more your entire experience of reality is there. There's brainwave readings that indicate when you imagine something vividly enough, it has the same impact on your neurons that doing that thing does. And this is why you can experience within your imagination. You can imagine yourself doing backflips, and it will actually help you get better at doing backflips. Let those who have ears hear. So, when you recognize that there are plenty of reasons that beings invest in this life, despite its difficulties, you could start to get into the perspective. You have to start from this, you're not in a body, you're considering all the different options. And there are many options to be less invested. You won't be as present in the body. You won't be as present in your emotions. So breaking your heart won't hurt as much. Getting in a tragic accident in which you die will not hurt as much because you weren't as invested. And then you could imagine daredevils pushing a little closer, being like, I'm going to be more in that experience. It's painful, but it's over. And they know it's going to be over when they invest in it. Now, At first, you're going to go through a phase of like, does this mean morality doesn't exist? Does this deteriorate the meaning to an extent where it's like, oh, you might as well do anything? Well, some beings experience it like that. Don't. Quite the opposite is true. The invitation is to be present with the fact that no matter how you behave, you are investing in what you create. As an eternal being, you're here within these constraints, within these pressures, within this pain, within this pleasure. How are you going to make your choices? If you make reckless choices to not care about others, that's exactly what you're creating, and that's karma. That karma can follow you right off the planet. It can follow you to the next place. You can't hide from it. You can't just show up at another planet and pretend you weren't who you were here. Absolutely. There's some person who fashions himself important in the world going around saying cosmic karma doesn't exist. Complete bullshit. Totally exists. You can't escape it. Not only can you not escape it, it's written on you in ways that plenty of beings can read. So you show up somewhere and it's like, oh, I can see on Earth you did this. Huh. I wonder how you'll behave here. To be present with what's possible here is to be present with the consequences of misusing your life. Now, some people use this as an inspiration to just turn life off, to go numb, to try hard less. But that is its own kind of karma. You're not making the best of the situation you're in. You're not being present with the gifts, the potentials, the possibilities in a form that could, oh goodness, let's not even talk about the karma you can create. You can really, really love when you accept the truth of the constraints within which we live. So let's return to these. Some beings were here before the cycle started. Just imagine that. Some beings were here and they were plotting out what's going to happen. Now, one thing they could do is delineate specific major changes. The major changes would be written in harmony with the cycles and the way they work in relation to the Milky Way itself, and the way the Earth rotates and points differently over time. And as this rotation changes and as the geometry aligns in new ways, you can know that specific times are ideal for generating shifts in an age, in a way of being. And you could say, for this phase, we're going to do this. And for this phase, we're going to do this. And for this phase, it would be an ideal time to invite in more souls. And that's exactly what was done. Now, I'm hesitating because I am being taught right now to remember the extent to which I participated in writing this process. And they're keeping it vague. They are not showing me enough to remember the most ancient times. It's been relentless telling me to identify as someone who's been here 967 times. Just this week, twice I was drawn to look at the computer at a time when 967 was appearing. But it's been years. It's been more than 10 years that I've been told this. And it's been extremely daunting to accept. For a long time, I was just told the number over and over again, over and over again. I would make up a number of just like a joke, like random times talking about, you've told me that 967 times. I was constantly coming up with the same number. And then like after 10 years, no joke, 10 years of that, I was told that's the number of lifetimes you've had here. And then click. And there's a certain kind of click that you get used to over time. It's hard to prove. It's hard to, and it's not to. It's hard and it's not hard because over time you get used to it. It's like, yep, that's the truthfulness of this transcending lifetimes awareness. You just know. And once you allow yourself to trust that, something settles, and that settling generates a deeper stability, a deeper current. And once it's like aligning a combination lock. And now you've got a deeper alignment and now more is revealed. So as long as I keep that consistent, like I trust that, more gets revealed. But my mind is still not reaching much past the Bronze Age collapse. I can't get myself much past that because humanity has changed so much. Our consciousness has shifted so much. And so the configurations of consciousness that we've had since, for those of you who don't know, Bronze Age collapse was about 1200 BC. A ton of civilizations collapsed all at once. It's really intense. It's worth learning about. That was a turning of ages. That was a significant turning of ages. Those kinds of changes were plotted into the system. And human consciousness shifted in a way that moved away from God's then. That was a very prominent and important time, because as long as you are looking for gods in your mind, you will find them. When you start to say, there's only one God, there's only one God, there's only one God, you do something to the coherence of your consciousness. And by the way, there is only one God. God, as a genderless presence, is all. Gods are those who tended and guided huge numbers of people over the course of thousands of years by holding space for God. Human consciousness was not ready to accept the dramatic depth from animal consciousness, creature consciousness, to universal consciousness. So you couldn't go from animal consciousness to accepting the reality of our incarnations on Earth. And the purpose of this is simple. Creature consciousness keeps us here. Creature consciousness generates the kind of consciousness that's very present on the material plane. Now, there's a lot of practical gifts to this. When you're very present on the material plane, juice tastes better. You might think that's silly, but swimming feels better. When you get to enjoy swimming, you get to enjoy swimming. That harmony harmonizes with dolphins and with beavers. You get to share something with other creatures who helped to generate the potential to enjoy swimming. The fact that we're all mortal and die, plenty of beings are willing to experience that. And if you notice, most creatures have very distinct roles, right? You're a predator or you're a prey in multiple contexts. Beings like that. They like the clarity of that. I'm going to run. If a threat comes, I'm going to run. If you'll notice, many more beings choose to be prey for extended periods of time. Being a predator it's very sad on a certain level. Now, from a human perspective, maybe you're going like, I'm a lion, I'm a wolf. Now you could be a dire wolf. To be present with the fact that to embody a carnivore means you're being something that it's very painful to universal loving consciousness. It's very painful. So there's a reason peepholes, choose to do this less. And so the whole setup puts us in a position where we can experience that some, and there's a joy in it, but overall you get reintroduced to the fact that it's very painful to be the one who ends others in this way. So there's a lot of dynamics happening at once. To generate the experience of being in a body, we need creature consciousness. But once you tune to creature consciousness, it's really hard to re-engage universal consciousness. So there were these gods, interim beings that drew us out of creature consciousness towards a memory of universal consciousness. It was always known that this was primary. This was at the heart. This is the heart of the story. To generate creature consciousness and then build it in such a way that you can reclaim eternal consciousness and thus eventually be able to have eternal consciousness present on Earth. That's where we're going. We're not there yet. We're still trying to create that. So in order to get there, something very incredible was done. You're going to like this. Some pyramids were built. Now, there are three. I'm going to tell you this quickly because I falter. Ignore the names. They were renamed by people who had nothing to do with making them. Spirit and soul. The big ones are the soul pyramid and the spirit pyramid. The spirit pyramid is drawing up and aligning consciousness with the heart of the earth. The soul pyramid is connecting with the sun and the stars and aligning consciousness there. The smaller pyramid is designed to bring them together. It's funny. People tend to think towards the great pyramid, right? But they hold different purposes. And the fundamental intention here was to align and create consciousness. We're creating human consciousness. When you resonate something right now, if you wrote a song and you sang it for 10 years, the first day you sang it and the 10th year are going to have a very different existence, because having shared it for this long, you're writing a groove. Now, if you don't sing it with love, it's not going to work as well. But if you can manage to access passion in a song, after a while, it takes on a presence that has a deeper impact on others. If you learn a skill and you practice it over and over again and you teach people in person, it's more possible for someone else to learn that skill, even if they never meet any of you, because it resonates in human consciousness. Rupert Sheldrake has done a lot of incredible work on this. He was inspired to create understandings that made Jung's collective unconsciousness more tangible. And he did a wonderful job. To appreciate that these fields of consciousness exist and you can access them is to recognize that the biggest level of a consciousness, there's this human consciousness. And the pyramids themselves were designed with the primary purpose of generating the foundational vibrations of humanity. They were generating something unique, something that reached beyond creature consciousness, something that reached to reclaim eternal consciousness. And those of us who went through those initiation ceremonies were put in a position to remember that our soul had chosen to have an experience on earth, and to tune in and claim the spiritual resonance. Spirit is from the heart of the earth. Soul is from the heart of the sun. Simple. Remember it this way. When you have these two and you try to unite them, you're drawing energy up through and drawing energy down through. Then you harmonize them in your heart. These initiations were designed to remember who we were before we came here and to claim the heart of the story that was being written for us, and to tune into it, to tune in with the beings who had committed to staying here to hold space for this entire story. I did this repeatedly in repeated lifetimes. And in my commitment to be a part of creating this, I was able to make a commitment into this lifetime. Now, in this lifetime, I was born into relatively I don't know, my families thought they were important. Have you ever heard, I'm not going to tell you that story. My families were at the heart of the northern and southern wealth. They weren't like the most of anything, but like my great-grandfather was a bishop, and my seven greats grandfather was on the Boston Tea Party. So, Sheriff of Boston, Joseph Shedd. These influences were something that I was given, like I was born into this heritage. And so when I was born, I didn't have any memory of other things, right? And then I hit about 23, 22, and I started to get memories. And there was a particular time about my 22nd birthday when I remembered that I had made a deal to do this work in this life. And it was unmistakable, like crying, tears streaming down my face, knowing that I had succeeded and I had the experience of seeding the memory that on my 22nd, the spring of my 22nd birthday, I would remember that I had chosen to do this work in this lifetime and that it was more important than any goal I would take on in this life. I made a deal with Thoth before I was born to do this work for now. This time is the turning of the ages. Different cultures make specific dates to it, but just suffice it to say, right about now, we are shifting dramatically. And as old systems fall apart, it helps a lot to know how to avoid the collapses. This is what we're going through right now. The patterns of the past had purpose. As awful as many of our institutions have been, they were in many respects better than the alternative. Humanity in pure chaos devolves towards creature consciousness all too often. It's a challenge not to devolve towards creature consciousness. And unfortunately, creature consciousness over time creates tremendous stability. Creature consciousness in humans, with our capacity for destruction, more complex patterns of hatred, it's pretty bad. So, the hells humans create are far worse than the hells animals create on their own. Animals are tremendously pragmatic. I don't know the data on this, but they don't typically hold vendettas for lifetimes. Humans do this. So to be present with our potential is to realize that despite the awful things that many organizations and institutions have done, there are reasons they were created in the manner they were. There are reasons they were generated in the way they were. And our goal is to transcend the need for their kind of dominance. Let's imagine, for instance, there was a pattern of uniting a pretty deep magical awareness. So the capacity to affect things with your intention, and rituals that built over the course of time to empower beings to have, I'm not going to use names of cultures, but imagine certain humans are empowered over the course of hundreds of years to do rituals that could damage someone who's not near them. At a certain point, that became utterly unacceptable. So if another organization, culture, is tasked with ending them and ended up hurting a lot of other people also, Gaia works this way. Gaia works this way. Now, I'm dancing around something that I'm sort of hoping you'll pick up on, but I'm going to do it this way on purpose because it's how I'm being guided. I want you to appreciate that as much as you may resent certain organizations and institutions and historical figures, it's difficult to measure how reality would have worked without them. So rather than keeping yourself addicted to a certain kind of understanding, appreciate this. A lot of it is over right now. Right now. Right now, organizations are fundamentally losing their presence, and it's affecting human consciousness itself. It's affecting the collective consciousness in a way that opens us to remembering well beneath the roots of this phase we've been in. Now, the phase we've been in has been, I've been encouraged to measure since this, look it up, the Bronze Age collapse. That time was incredibly transformational. And the purpose of that time was to bring humans out of this like multiple gods with tons of sacrifices. They sacrificed children. They sacrificed children as a regular part of their religion. Now think about what it's like to live in a culture where your child could be taken as it's like legitimized that they should be sacrificed to try to have a crop grow better. When this kind of pattern is prevalent, it takes dramatic change. It's like Gaia was willing to just burn a lot of these cultures, just destroy them. And even the ones that rose in their ashes, a couple of them kept that practice. And then they were destroyed, just annihilated. And again, I'm not telling specifics because I want you to think this way, that Gaia has been making these choices. One pattern replaces another pattern, replaces another pattern. And all of it was laid out ahead of time. The phases of our history where human sacrifice, child sacrifice would be a part of it, were put in this era. And then in this era, this kind of rivalry was put. And in this era, this kind of thing was put. And much of the purpose was to do things and then say no to them. Now, this sounds just like absurdly like, how could any consciousness do this? Because it was ephemeral. It didn't have the same depth of presence that you might think. It's a mistake to take your current experience of being conscious with the depth of nuance of your experience of touching things, feeling things, thinking, tasting, and directly translate that to 3,000 years ago. wasn't the same experience at all. In many, many, many ways, beings were much number then. They were more like operating something by remote control. And they still felt pain, but in a certain respect, it was much more brutal and numb. It was just like happened and was over. The goal has been to create consciousness and eventually create consciousness that is eternal love, present in a body, present with the capacity to walk barefoot and go swimming, present with a nuance of telepathic harmony that allows me to know when my friend is unhappy and give them a call. You can't have that level of harmony if you still resent people too much. Just this past week, I've had some petulant resentments of my friends. It's sad for me, but I have, for whatever reason. Those petulant resentments get through. If I still have petulant resentments, my friends can't be as present with me because they will get damaged by my petulant resentments. Now, this is a simple example, but I want you to extrapolate it. We have to sort of learn a certain range of lessons before we can advance to another. You can't be deeply, deeply, deeply woven with others you love until you overcome a certain willingness to dump your shit on them. And as long as you dump your shit at this level on them, they can only love you in a little bit more than that. And then when you deal with this lesson, then they can expand the amount they love you because you won't be throwing darts at them. None of this has to make sense to you yet. What I ask you to experience is hope for a future where we do transcend these problems and trust that what we're going through right now is about paving the way into a much, much more beautiful, harmonious future. And to trust that now can be challenging because so much energy is being stirred up. So much energy is being stirred up. All right. I didn't take my break. I'm going to do a gentle yoga in a couple minutes. I thought I passed it a bit. I try to do a break halfway through or often at 33. At 55, I'm closing down because I'm going to try to start right at 11 in the sanctuary. The sanctuary is where we gather with each other I do lightning sessions. We share a meditation. The website is deeply renovated. I really want to give tremendous thanks to Sarah and Angie and Emiliano for redesigning these. They're throwing down on some of the deepest levels. They're making this possible. And the work I'm doing is much more. It's much more because I'm getting a lot more help than I used to get. So for that reason alone, I'm really grateful. And I want those of you who are interested to know we've got plenty to do. We've got plenty of spaces for anyone who wants to participate and help. One of the simplest ways you can help is to buy things. I don't mean to be blunt, but quite frankly, it helps a ton. Taking the pressure off of making this grounded enough that I can just not worry about the bills we have, and I still do. It makes a big difference. So for those of you who do regular sessions, who buy the courses, and who signed up for the new memberships, thank you. More than that, I am so excited about these new memberships. They are wonderful. Like, we've been working on planning this out for a long time. I'm so proud of what we have to offer you. This is some of the best medicine in the world. Now, look, I give away almost everything I do on YouTube. I get $150 a month from YouTube. Like, this is not a life. So my time and investment in you is dramatically accentuated in the work I do throughout the week that makes this possible. So YouTube ends up finding us the people who are most committed. I'm proud to say this is the best way I know you can take care of yourself. The courses, the classes that we offer throughout the week, and the courses themselves, and the deeper training. So there's a deep teacher training that you can take too, which is like an in-depth dive into yourself, spirituality, and the way to enable a healthier life using all of this knowledge. This is the best stuff I could give you. I've dedicated my life to creating it. We're getting so much help and participation. A lot of people have been learning these things for years, making them better. Here to help mentor you, improve it. Please look into what we have to offer on the website. All right, I'm going to do a little yoga break. Simple, gentle. You make your own choices. I don't get nervous much anymore. I used to, but like I just got a breath of nervousness and I tune in with Thoth and he says, I got you. I'm a little bit like a spiritual child with him. Not as much as I used to be. He's teaching me to grow up. It's not quite as direct as a father metaphor, but to appreciate that you can invest your heart enough that you get the support where you get to be scared, you get to feel vulnerable, you get to feel deeply disoriented. And as long as you train yourself to ask for help in a certain way, maintaining responsibility for as much as you can, they're here for you. To appreciate that these are unique beings can be challenging because your mental experience is likely to be fractured. You're this. You're covering your eyes saying, you can't see me. And then when you start to open your eyes, there is a temptation that can last for years to try to maintain control over your reality by questioning what you're seeing. But of course, as long as you do that, you can't fully open your eye. Because once you fully open and see, you see. It's like it's there. You can't just have the power to think that maybe this is a figment of imagination, maybe this is just a dream. There's a certain sense of control that one maintains with the belief that if I cover my eye, you can't see me. It's a phase, and it can be a protracted phase for many people. But I urge you to realize, and I'm saying this with kindness as best I can, because some of you are very rude, for what it's worth. I've been working on this for 25 years. Just show up and start arguing with me is bullshit. And I'm speaking to someone very specifically. Like, I'm not here to argue with you. It's not my job. I'm doing work that's reaching a lot of people. I do the best I can. I'm transparent. Don't get one insight and bash into me and think you have something to offer. Like, put your head down, be humble, do some work for a while. Consider that maybe I had that thought 20 years ago. Thoth is not just thought, it's the other way around. Thoth helped generate the foundations of our thought as humans. The foundation of our thought as humans is a set of frequencies existing within the human consciousness space, in the languages, in the tone, in the rhythm, at the pace. Think about the pace you think at. Have you ever thought about the fact that the pace you're thinking at is a pace? There's nothing intrinsic about it. You could learn to think faster. You could learn to be slower. You could learn to go higher. You could learn to go lower. You could learn to harmonize with your eye. You could learn to think with the realized. When you know where you can go there. You can make your consciousness go faster. You can make it rhyme. If you were thinking faster with rhyme and rhythm and pitch changes all the time, that's a very different space. That's a very different consciousness. Thoth gave us thought. Thought is not unlimited. It's a space on which we think. And he is a unique individual who you can learn to talk to. And I've done a lot of work to learn to talk to him, and I get answers to incredible questions. For instance, the shafts in the pyramids are aligned on purpose. They were constructed with the intention of being aligned, in some cases, thousands of years in advance. And that alignment, get this is beautiful. That alignment allowed beings to incarnate on Earth, become someone, go through a sequence of a story that was partly scripted, reach the point where they were accepted in a mystery school, launched into a sacred ceremony where they were put in a particular chamber where the shaft aligned with the star from which they came. But that alignment only worked for a certain number of years, in some cases 20 years. After that, the alignment is no longer on. So thousands of years in advance, they designed these pyramids to be able to initiate beings thousands of years later into Earth consciousness. Why? Because it's extremely valuable for you to go through a ceremony where you remember firmly and clearly that you were from there. You came here from that star, those stars. Now, Sirius is a big one. The simple reason, it's one of the closest and largest stars to us. There's a deep resonant exchange. There's a love. Some beings have said, like, our soul and Sirius are in love. The pattern of energetic exchange between our stars is dramatic, and beings can come here for a certain phase of time and play substantial roles. It's upon Sirius. And play substantial roles in the creation of human consciousness. It was always designed. And so those shafts were built thousands of years in advance. There was an entire sequence, long sequences of many phases of reality for humanity in which there weren't a lot of people here on purpose. Now, the first part of this phase was actually a lot more beautiful than the latter parts. The first parts were a lot less violent. It was empty. There wasn't as much to fight over. There was a beautiful, beautiful commitment. What I've been invited to share, now recently, I think I've said this last week, but recently I've been invited to empty. I've been restraining, like holding on to things I get taught, and they're like, it's not going to work. You gotta keep telling them everything you learn in order to learn more. And this is what I want the most. I want to learn. I love being exposed to the truth of these times. So they're starting to initiate me into what it was like 9,600 BC. Okay, that was the end of the phase of transition in many ways. 9,600 BC, and then the next several thousand years were really beautiful. And there's a simple reason. This is what I've been squirreling away. Those Atlanteans who chose to stay, I want to say us, but I haven't fully remembered it, and they're keeping it vague. Those who chose to stay were deeply committed in letting go of human interference. Now, believe it or not, Atlantis was far less invested in a certain range of sort of the belief that our technology mattered. Right now, we're in a tremendously deep disease of thinking we're way more important than we are. This is the negative consequence of forgetting the rest of the universe. When we think that we're isolated in this little bubble doing this, everything we create seems special. And we lose the humility to realize that everything about the opportunity to do this was generated by beings who are right here watching over us. And they're far more interesting and intricate than anything we come up with. We're basically like, we're finger painting still. So Atlantis had evolved to the point where they were doing all sorts of stuff. They used electricity. The ancient Egyptians and Sumerians used electricity. Really, they were very deeply reverent about it. They didn't hook up all the houses, but they hooked up the temples. And it was a sacred art. It was the priests took care of it. It was honored and humble. And at the end of Atlantis, there was a deep desire to even interfere less, to emphasize the much more sacred experience. And this is how it was thought of, the sacred experience of integrating with the elements, of learning to talk with the stone, sing it to the point where you could meld it, lift it. This was considered far more sacred than messing around learning technological skills on a certain level, thinking that our direct manipulation of the elements was as consequential as we seem to think now. So for thousands of years, those Atlanteans who chose to stay for the beginning of this next cycle were initiating a depth of reality that was now less connected with the rest of the Milky Way, deeply in tune with living on Earth, and man, we got to swim. I'm telling you, diving in a river is one of the most exquisite experiences possible. When you appreciate that this is one of the primary reasons we come here, to be able to see the sunset and dive in the river and have a glass of juice. Like, please understand that the depth of ecstasy you can experience, that you can embody with this, far exceeds things you would pay thousands and thousands of dollars for now. It's in a different extreme of presence. When you know how to be deeply present and you aren't threatened by how much you might get hurt because you live surrounded by people who deeply cherish you and honor and integrate the very fabric of our minds When people don't dump our shit on each other, we don't suddenly say, it's your fault that I feel this way. The level of spiritual, emotional, and mental maturity has to exceed the potential to damage each other with spiritual darts, or you can't be so open. But when you are surrounded by whole communities of people who cherish each other in these ways, you can love your juice more. It's this simple. You can love swimming more. You can love singing more. You know how to sit next to someone and experience depths of ecstasy that far exceed what many of you have during sex. When you know how to be this present with each other, thousands of years reincarnating in simple cultures, it's very understandable why we did this. So you have to create space in your mind to appreciate that that's how it worked. And then at a certain point, it had to change. So about 6,000 years ago, about halfway through that cycle, humans had to grow. Now, there are a lot of reasons, but the primary one is there was set to be this time when humans would basically destroy a shitload of things on the earth and yet hold space for billions of different beings from all over the galaxy. When we hold space for billions of different beings from all over the galaxy, something very fundamental happens. It's crossroads. It's a crossroads of consciousness. So by hosting a gathering, this is what this is on a grand scheme of things. It's a gathering. It's always been intended this way. You gather, you get this opportunity. We're all in human bodies. We get to learn from each other. You get to make choices, gravitate to other people, and make new choices. You get to learn about the rest of the galaxy from a particular point of view. And then you get to completely reframe and leave and go do something else, or stay for the next phase. Whew. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your likes. I do appreciate it. Thank you for considering joining the sanctuary, joining our courses membership. This is the best commitment I know that you can make. I dedicated my entire life into doing this work because it's the best knowledge that I learned by tuning in. And frankly, it's really fun. It's really joyful to experience a magical life. The first time I learned to feel my heart, I remember spending months just like flabbergasted. I can feel my heart. When my mind changes, it changes the way I feel. When I change the way I feel, it changes my mind. This is so cool. Still fascinated by it 25 years later. So that's the foundation of what we do. We're about to do a meditation with each other. When we do this meditation, it's the best way to retune yourself that you can have. What we're doing is we are tuning in to the heart of human consciousness that unites soul and spirit. When you unite soul and spirit, we are re-experiencing the alignments that were created by the pyramids before human consciousness in this form existed. We were generating consciousness and now it exists. And now you can tune in and now you can do it here. You can do it wherever you are. You can learn to tune in, unite spirit and soul in your heart. And the simplest way to begin to do that is to do work with the key ring. The key ring is the sacred cycle. Heart, crown, throat, sacral, nose tip, solar plexus, diamond eye, lungs, root, chin, navel, third eye, heart. Heart, crown, throat, sacral, nose tip, solar plexus, diamond eye, lungs, root, chin, navel, third eye, heart. Memorize it. I will see you all quite soon. Those of you who join us, it's a lot of fun. We do lightning sessions. If you haven't seen them, I invite you to. This is, in many ways, the most important work we do. I'm sharing what I've learned, how to take care of other people. I'm teaching you, hopefully, how to take care of yourself and introducing to you to what you can learn to do to help take care of other people. This is medicine of the future. It's a fundamental level of medicine that people often ignore, and it's just utterly fascinating to learn about and a joy to experience because it makes your life better, often very quickly. I love you. See you soon. Bless you. Much love be with you and your family. Hey, dramatic exit. Doesn't work when I can't click on this button. Okay, I'm missing something. am I missing? I just tune into with Thoth to make sure it's enough. Holy shit, I've never had such a hard time leaving. All right, look, I get some resentment from people that we charge money for things. How could you do that? This is sacred work. Thoth tells me to. Thoth tells me to play the game. The simple return is go make some money. You can figure out how to make money. You're a strong, interesting spiritual being. If you can't make money, figure out how you can offer work that is truly beneficial to us. There is only say I'm glad this is what I needed to say, because I want to say it. I'm tired of people kicking me resentment. I am too naturally giving. I often give too much, and as a result I end up with too much stress within my family because I don't make enough money and don't have enough resources. And it's coming from a space where I want to help everybody ask for help. I want to talk to everybody who's interested to talk to me. But the fact of the matter is, when I challenge you to go make some money and pay us, it's like, you can do this. It'll be good for your life. Once you figure out how to make money, if this is a reason for you to figure out how to make more money so you can experience some of the gifts that we're giving through financial exchange, you'll have that skill under your belt for other situations. You'll be better off and more empowered. Go forth, succeed. You can do it. Much love. What a trip. It doesn't quit. This has never happened. This has never happened before. What am I missing? Someone's really angry at me for ruining their game. I'm just going to say no to them. And apparently I need to ask for your help to say no. I don't know who this is. But I put myself out there and I reach a lot of you, and so many of you are deeply loving and blessed. And I'm going to ask for your help. Could you please help me in just saying no to this being who resents me? Because I'm simply channeling the energy of the changes. It's time for their game, whatever it is, to end, I'm sure. And if I'm the catalyst that brings that towards them, okay, but this is not my fault. This is what's happening on Earth right now. And you got to learn to change with the times. There's a new phase of reality. Shift, dig deep, pray, ask for what it is time for you to learn now. I'm not going to take care of people who send me resentment. So if those of you who are here will help me say no to whoever is sending me hostility, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Wow. It just, for real? Okay, so somebody else is, this is very fascinating, by the way, but I don't disregard when computers do these. Some group is apparently urging me to be more cautious, but I tune into Thoth and he says, no, I'm doing exactly what I'm being asked to do. So I have some other group that thinks they're being protective, but they're actually getting in the way. This is my job. This is my work. So what of it? Because I can't even shut my computer down. This is hilarious. So Thoth is saying it's enough. I'm going to unplug my computer. I love you guys. This is hilarious.